just talking about something that I had learned recently in this book by Neville Goddard. So Neville Goddard is one of the most popular and respected spiritual authors of all time. A lot of people recognize that name. But my mentor online recommends 3 specific books: Feeling is the Secret, Awakened Imagination, and Out of This World. So I've listened to those 3 on repeat for the last year, I would say at least. But there's one title that I only found out because I downloaded a 14-book mega audio of his work. It's Seed Time and Harvest. And why I bring this up is we're doing a lot of different things today that we've known to do, we've known how to do. We're really capitalizing on skills that we had acquired or found out about over the last 6 years. And I always try to think about that. You know, as a human being, you want to reckon with that. Like, we're doing things, we've known to do this, right? There's not new stuff that we've never had to do before or never known to do, but we're just not working on it. Is filming content, okay? So for myself, you know, content is how I've known everything that I know. It's how I interact with the internet completely, is watching other creators that I like, other YouTube, you know, channels, Twitch, Kick, all these major platforms of video content. Rumble, there's a show on Rumble I really like as well. And content is really what's most important going forward. If we could talk about, you know, the .com boom and then the smartphone boom, and now it's really videos, everything, so much so that if you want to promote something with still photos, good luck. It's just not going to show or get the eyeballs that a video would. People want video. So I've known this. So why I bring this up is, in the book, Seed Time and Harvest, is one chapter. If you could throw away the whole book and keep one chapter, is blood and water. Okay? So Neville Goddard is 100% through the Christian lens of the scriptures that everyone knows and loves have a whole other layer to them. Yes, it's historically true, but it's also an allegory or a metaphor for the human mind and how the human mind works and how creation, this whole matrix that God made that we live in, how those laws interact with the person, okay? So why I bring this up is he talks about there's 3 levels of understanding, or 3 levels of knowledge for the human that's talked about in the Bible. There's stone, water, and blood. So the stone, there's so many parts in the Bible. If you're familiar with scripture, you may know a couple of verses as I speak about this, where the stone is laid over this, or the stone falls to the bottom of the well, or the stone is laid over Christ's tomb. All these things. The stone is when you don't know anything. You don't understand the knowledge. You're away from the knowledge. You don't understand, you're in ignorance, is the stone. So many times, especially in the Old Testament, it's about getting to the water of life, the water that you will take and no longer thirst. All these things is with water. Meeting a woman at the well, it's all about water. Water is actually the acquisition of knowledge. So learning something and acquiring the knowledge and gaining the gnosis about a particular topic. But what Goddard gets into in that chapter of Seed Time and Harvest is that it's not enough. The water is obviously a level 2, it's a step 2, but water is not the ultimate. The ultimate is blood. So when we think of the Christ coming as man, his first miracle that took place is he transformed the water into wine at the wedding. Okay? Also, when they stabbed Christ in the side with the spear as he lays on the cross, as he hangs on the cross, what comes out of his side? Water and blood. So how this applies to our lives is, if you have a lot of knowledge, you need to take the steps to enact that knowledge and put it into place, and that takes mental discipline. They say that, you know, things changing you want to make to your mindset or to your mind or your outlook or your perspective, your paradigm, is actually the hardest work that a human can do, right? If we toil in the soil with our hands and we do, you know, physical labor or tasks, is a lot easier. I mean, as difficult as those can be, than to change your mind. The mind is one of the things that takes the most persistent work. So that's where the water transforms into blood. So if we think about living from the state of the wish fulfilled, transferring yourself to that state of you've already completed what you want. You already are the person that you want to be. You already have the things that you want to have. You already live in the place that you want to live. That is a crucial teaching that I've known for years. I think I first came across anything like that in 2023, maybe 2024. So we're in 2026 today, and I'm just now realizing that was the water period, was gaining that knowledge. I mean, you go from living in a atheist life or a secular worldview or a materialist worldview where you only believe in the senses, whether you see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, and then just to get your mind ripped open to this idea of frequency and this idea of the invisible realm and all the things that we can't see that actually dictate our lives. is the water, right? That's a crucial step, and a lot of people aren't there. If you're hearing this video and it sounds like I'm talking craziness, is because you're probably still at the level of stone. You're not even at the water. And then a person can get to the level of water and get frustrated and say, wow, I don't have these things that they talk about in the books, that they talk about in the lectures, that they talk about in the PowerPoints. And Neville Goddard like just gave me the perfect perspective, is that you need to transform that water into blood. And that is actually enacting those things. And that takes time. And you can't skip steps. You're not going to be able to jump from stone to blood. It just doesn't happen that way in any of the verses of the Bible. And if we look at the life of Jesus, as well as the way that the apostles speak about him and what he had did and what he instructs us to do, the blood is so important. Or you can even think of the wine, which is made from water and grapes, becoming the blood and transubstantiation at the moment of the Mass, the Catholic Mass, where now that chalice becomes the chalice of salvation, is another example of how we need to take not only just knowledge, but apply the knowledge in your daily life, which is difficult. And I'm happy to say that, it's not easy. I think it can be a huge white pill in terms of why do I not have the results. This is the hardest work that could be done, is to shift one's paradigm. But once that happens, you're kind of like opening that portal for the life that you want, the things that you want, the success, the abundance to come through that portal. And yeah, that's really what I want to say about it. If you want to say anything else, maybe that always helps. When someone says something, it can jog my mind, and then I'll say some more.
Tell me more about what Neville Goddard does. I don't think, and I've always felt this way, that this isn't something that you can get to a place of one day and then the next day fall back and think you did it. It's kind of like you got to stay, taking it to the Catholic faith. We do that every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like you go take the Eucharist one time and go with it. This is a constant thing. A lot of things in faith and in personal growth is about the consistency of doing it all the time.
Yeah, so in my personal experience, like 23, 24, those years, I had first come across this work for the first time, okay? Like all at once through a key teacher. And it's so shocking, and you get so lost in this world of, I want to learn more. So you'll find an author, right? Let's take the Freemason who started to expose a lot and was killed, Manly P. Hall. You find one book by him, you want to... Yeah, he was actually murdered at the end of his life. Manly P. Hall, you find one book, you want to read another one, and another one, and you're like, okay, what else? Let me hear a lecture. So there was this time, I track everything I read in a spreadsheet. This way, I never forget it, because we take in information from so many different places. Sometimes it's not about buying a book from Barnes & Noble and putting it on a shelf. It's a Kindle ebook, it's an Audible, it's sometimes just the physical. It's so many different ways that I realized I was taking information. It would be impossible for me to go back in a few years and say, okay, what did I read 3 years ago? What did I read 4 years ago to get to this point? And if someone else wants to learn, it's good luck. There's no way I'm going to be able to share everything, because I wasn't sticking to one form of taking in books. If anybody was on any of them, you could just look in their Kindle and they're all there. But sometimes I'm buying one. Sometimes someone passes me one, I borrow it. Sometimes I find it on YouTube. It's not in Audible, or all these things. So I created this spreadsheet, and I was so focused on getting to the most amount of books read in a year. Like I would put a goal. I wanted to do a book a week. And then once past that, like I had this dream of doing even more than that. And it's all these things. So what I eventually came to do is said, okay, how do I like my results when I'm just trying to read as many books as possible? There's a quote in Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret that he's quoting someone else saying, if someone wants to make real progress, this is a paraphrase, if someone wants to make real progress, stick to reading one sure book upon your art. For to read many books on a topic produceth confusion. Now, every time I listen to that one, I hear that, and so why I brought up Feeling is the Secret, Awakened Imagination, and Out of This World, all three books by Neville Goddard, is because I've listened to those three on repeat in 2025. And it's only now, after a year of doing so, that I'm really starting to get it. You mentioned we go to the Mass every week. You don't go to the Mass one time and you're good. Despite what modern Catholics will try to tell you about their personal experience. It's supposed to be something that you're revisiting, right? And so if we could take Neville Goddard's work is so good, because if you're listening to that book, I have an audio tape of it where I put a binaural in the background as well to help me focus. We're talking about like a 60-minute book, or a 75-minute book, a 30-minute book, depending on the title. That you can do that every day, and that's what I've started to do. And it's only then that I've able to really take it in and really, because it's asking so much. When you listen to a Neville Goddard tape or read his books, This is not, okay, wake up at this time, you're a little earlier. He's asking you to completely change your paradigm, saying, okay, what I experienced in my waking life was set the night before. Like, no one thinks like this. Or that when we wake up and enact the day, it's an illusion that we're actually deciding anything. You decided that based upon your state of mind before you fall into sleep. He brings up so many times, there's a verse in the book of Job, chapter 33, verses 15 and 16. It says, I'm going to paraphrase, at night, when deep sleep falleth upon man, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. And I may have butchered that a bit, but that is basically this idea that God speaks to us chiefly through dreams. And even if we can't remember those dreams, you're setting the pace for the following day. So just if no one is at all familiar with these books, the crux of Neville Goddard's work is he figured that out through listening to the books of Solomon in the Bible. Before bed, whatever state of mind or idea you have of yourself as you drift off into sleep is set for your future. So if you can manipulate that and enter into the state of the wish fulfilled throughout the day, but especially before bed, you're now setting your internal thermostat to a new character. You wake up in a new life. It's like you're really switching timeline. If anyone is familiar with Vadim Zeland, life is a bunch of little tracks, a bunch of little lifelines. And you're a little silver marble jumping tracks. Okay, you can't change the track you're on. If you don't like it, you can't bend the track. You have to jump onto a new one and jump onto a new lifeline. So it works really well with Neville Goddard's work, even though they're written at very different times. And I personally prefer Neville Goddard so much because he's just hitting you over the head with so many Bible verses and explaining, like, this is that second layer of scripture that is so lost on the material mind today that only trusts the senses. It's not going to work for you. But, so I say all this to say, when we learn all this stuff with the water, is the knowledge of understanding. Everything I've said in this video is probably pretty shocking if you're not familiar with this work, but if you're one of the students of this work, you know what I'm talking about. You could memorize all the facts. I could repeat the book to you word by word, but if you're not enacting it, turning that water, that knowledge, into the blood of Christ, into the blood of the chalice of salvation, into the blood of his first miracle at the wedding at Cana, it's not going to work for you. And it is, I said earlier in this recording, it's a white pill to say there's hope. It's not that this stuff doesn't work. You just need to make sure you're making that final transfer. You've had the stone of ignorance placed over your mind, over your life for so long. You've turned it into water. Great. By acquiring this knowledge that a lot of people would disagree. We're on the highway right now. All these cars, if they could hear what, if there's like a local chat, like Xbox local game chat, could hear what I'm speaking about. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, the things that I've said in this recording. That the mindset you have before you go to sleep sets your entire day. You don't actually choose anything the next day. It's the illusion of choice. You're just enacting a script that you put together the night before as you slip into slumber. This is the mysteries of conscious and subconscious mind. All these things that Neville Goddard talks about. So I say all this to say, my brother brought up a great point. It's about revisiting the material and over again, like the Mass. You do it 52 times a year, not once. Is how you have to be with this material every single day. So I have a little iPod that's in my bag I could show, that I put these tapes on and I listen to them, I guess in the way other people would listen to a new podcast. But it's the novelty that you must resist. You must resist a new episode. You must resist a new book. I used to track it and try to get to 50 books, so 55 books, 60 books. Fuck all that. If you can listen to 3 or 4 books or read 3 or 4 books every single day, you're going to make that change, turn that water into blood. Because it's not about knowing. There's a cliche, a trite saying that is thrown out so much. It's like, it's not knowledge that's power, it's the application of knowledge. Or knowing something is not the same as doing what you know. And all these things that we hear so much. Neville Goddard pushes it into Christ's life. That is what he enacted on the earth as man. So there's so much I could say about this particular topic. I mean, name dropping Neville Goddard does say a lot, but I realize people may need it explained the way that I explain it. Maybe I've said it in such a way in this particular recording that hits with you, rather than you going buying those books from Barnes & Noble and trying to get through it yourself. But so much of his work talks about imprinting the subconscious. The subconscious is the creative power in the mind, and God allows us to use the subconscious mind to tune the radio, okay? Tune the radio. Creation is finished. When God created the world through the sun, at that moment, creation is finished. All we do is switch the channel. Okay, so your best life, great girl, great family, money, the car, the location, the house, the place you live, all these things, the healthy body, the muscular body, the well-developed mind, the great speaker, all these things that we desire for ourselves is pretty natural to any man, is just a tune of the radio away. That life exists, and you can attune to it. God asks us to co-create by impressing the subconscious with the right feeling of the state fulfilled, the state of the wish fulfilled.
Yeah, can you get into some of the tactics of how you can do this the night before bed?
Yeah. So, when I say state, I have to bring up something that he speaks about in Awakened Imagination, one of the other books, is there's this law within the universe, even in the physical universe, where if you can take a cause and effect, if you reverse it, you can get the other side. So if this is how we were able to make the telephone, this is how we were able to make electricity, by understanding that these friction and sound work together, okay? So if you have friction produces sound, you can then take a record, like, you know, a vinyl record, create a pattern in it, and as a needle rings across it, it'll reproduce the sound that created the wrinkle. This is at the crux of a lot of technology, is understanding this. You use the sound of your voice to imprint into the vinyl, and then later someone takes a needle and drags it over the imprint, and it reproduces the sound. So this inverse causality, okay, he talks about. So why this is important is, if you had, let's just take a very easy example. If you want a beautiful car, a lot of people really, when they think of wealth, especially for myself, is a beautiful car. So let's say you're really into Ferrari, okay? And you really want this Ferrari, and if you were rich, that would make you feel rich, is to drive a beautiful car. A nearly unattainable car for so many people is a Ferrari, okay? So if you have the Ferrari, you're driving the Ferrari to get to work, or go to the grocery store, or go to a restaurant with your girlfriend, all these things, there's a certain feeling that you would feel if you're stepping out of that car. How do you feel stepping out of that car? You're not worried. It's actually a more relaxed version of yourself. You feel proud of yourself. The fear is gone. The worry is gone. You drive a fucking Ferrari. Like, you know, you're not gonna feel those negative emotions. So if you can pin down what the feeling is for having that item, that's a material possession, it's a real concrete thing, it's a three-dimensional object, the Ferrari. What does it feel like to have it? If you can produce the feeling in your body with your imagination, it is a law of the universe that if you stay in that feeling long enough, that object that produced that feeling must come about. And that's like, if you think back to the record, the sound of my voice creates the groove in the vinyl, okay? Then the vinyl later takes a needle, rings it across the vinyl, and now that creates the sound. So it's this inverse causality. So if we have the feeling coming from the thing, if I have the feeling, the thing must come about, because the thing brought the feeling. Every single desired outcome that you want, if you think about your ideal life, has a feeling associated to it. And if you can appropriate or adopt the feeling of that thing must come about. That's just basically a law of the universe.